I was beginning to think that we are going to have a ReZero situation where we're questioning, does the opening actually exist? And then in comes episode 4 to show us something truly magnificent. The quality of Vivi is, I think, truly unmatched. There's clearly a passion behind it. I made a video recently discussing Wit Studios' new scheduling and how they're a lot healthier than when they were doing Attack on Titan. They very much are taking their time and flexing what they can do with a good schedule, and this episode was breathtaking and honestly got me off guard. I think, just given what I was reading in my own comments section, what I was thinking, I don't think any of us saw the sister angle coming, and it felt like, oh, they're gonna go the kind of more traditional, like, okay, she was actually a bad person, was there like a virus, something like that. We've seen sci-fi series before. It was going to be something like that, but we knew it was going to stick its landing, even if it wasn't the most shocking thing ever. And then they did shock us, and they still stuck the landing with this emotional gut punch that just feels so conclusive, but it's so heartbreaking. I think a lot of times these types of stories that are almost episodic in a sense, they struggle because every story is one episode. But if we combine last week with this, it was a great arc that really just starts. The middle's great, the ending's flawless, it just is something that's so memorable. And I think as long as they keep that like kind of foundation going forward, where an arc's going to be as many episodes as it needs to be. Hell, maybe the next one we watch will be 3 episodes, right? I think by not limiting your story run to a singular episode, it just makes it so much better. Like trying to imagine if they would have made this kind of spaceship motel a 1 episode, we probably wouldn't care too much because they would have really had to rush past someone like Estella really caring for the customers, wanting to show them space and everything like that. The reason the final moments were so powerful was we know damn well Estella is a character who cares more about the happiness and showing humanity the wonders of space than she does about dying or anything like that. And to have Beth, her twin sister, who was disposed of and then kind of repurposed by someone he saved back in episode 2 there, and still with a purpose to destroy AIs, to see the evolution of her character and just for how much action was in this episode, for how good the animation was for the action. The song was the best part for me. The closing moments and, someone like Vivi, unable to save the sister, but, able to save her younger sister, right? Just the idea of giving the bear that Matsumoto ends up using and probably will use again in the future. It's so fascinating to watch that kind of like build up to say, I wasn't able to save your sister, but I was able to save you, and I'm going to do my best to keep you like that. I'm very curious if, given the fact that they did survive, if, when we kick into, say, episode 5, is she going to be a teenager? Are they still going to have a good connection? There's a lot of possibilities, right? But I love the foundation and the structure of this episode, the mechanics at play, like simply having Matsumoto install combat mode into Vivi so she'd be a combat AI. Super badass. I love the technology to it, but I also love the fact that even though she lost an arm, she can take any android's arm and just attach it to her own. It's so fascinating to see just the level of detail in all the little nuances that I think a lot of authors overlook, but the fact that this was a story that was written as a novel first to then be adapted by Wit Studio, for those who didn't know, rather than just having the Chaos Child and ReZero authors write a script so that they could use it, they actually had them write a novel in order to then adapt that novel into an anime, which I guess the novel is also supposed to come out eventually. It's a really cool idea, and I think because they wrote it in that way, it allows for the story to have a lot more detail, because I feel like a lot of times when these big name authors, they have, they've had dozens upon dozens of light novels, they know how to write a long story, but when it comes to having 12 episodes in an anime script, it's a very different style medium, so I think a lot of their skills get lost. But having it wrote as an actual book to them, the studio knows how to adapt the book, it just makes it come across in a much more fleshed out way, and seeing the level of detail from the visuals to the sound effect. I can't be the only one who thought Best Voice Actress knocked it out of the park. The screeching and corruption to her voice in the closing moments of the fight was some of the most eerie and I think atmospheric things we've seen in anime in quite some time. Her voice going from normal, just kind of chaotic, neutral android to just a destroying, screeching siren that's, malfunctioning. The level of detail in the Japanese cast, from the sound effects being applied over just the actions to the voices, the voice acting quality, it's just absolutely magnificent. And I think for an episode that's really dominated by the action, it's once again impressive to see how they really got a backstory between two sisters and how one was, just wasn't meant to be. They were trying to manifest something that could be a direct copy of a perfect AI, seemingly didn't work, and then that AI got repurposed. It's very interesting to see the idea of Matsumoto's plans and how, he gets kind of shocked by certain things, like this is too soon. But as you watch this episode, you realize how things were able to happen and, the corruption that was going on. It was just so cool. And honestly, like as soon as I saw the whole sister angle, I was like, okay, immediately that's interesting, but I'm curious because if you're going to shock us with that, there's got to be even more to it. And I love how far they pushed the idea of like creation of AIs and once again showing just how complex and how dangerous it could be in the future, because even though it wasn't a perfect copy, you can already imagine what that type of technology could do for the super killer AI that someone's developed, and they can perfectly copy that. That could be a dangerous thing, and you can understand how the world could get completely destroyed. But I love the idea that even in her dying moments, the thing that she wanted to show these people was just the stars and how beautiful it was, not the destroyed ship that she was going to burn on, but just the beautiful and just to see the kids smiling. There were so many moments that surrounded by chaos, surrounded by action. It was the simpler, sweet moments that shows the brilliance that humanity wants to see the stars, even in a dangerous situation. It was just great. I really, really enjoyed it. And honestly, that fight scene between Beth and Vivi was insanely well animated. You couldn't even pause mid-frame because it was so smooth. There was so many frames that it was hard to capture a keyframe. It was amazing to see the level of quality in the show, and honestly it actually feels like for 4 weeks now it's gotten better, or 3 weeks I should say, because episodes 1 and 2 came out back to back. Before episodes it just increases in quality. The first 2 blew me away. Last week's episode I thought was a really interesting idea that I thought I knew where it was going to go, and then this episode just made the arc all the better. I mean, honestly, this show, it's a masterpiece already to me. I really feel that way. From the production value, both visually, crisp art style, amazing animation, the voice acting, the music, the sound effects, all that's working, but it actually feels like a well fleshed out novel that was properly adapted into an anime, and so far the pacing doesn't feel iffy in the slightest. It feels like there's characterization, everyone has their chance to shine. And like I mentioned, if this was going to have bad pacing, we would have had last week and this week's episode in one episode, and we might have had the closing emotional moments, but we wouldn't have had time to really see Estella and trust in Estella. We would just immediately assume she was evil or something like that. I personally do hope that we do get to see a 3-parter, because while I don't know the types of stories they are going to tell in Vivi, I just feel like seeing what they're able to accomplish with a 2-parter, whether it's going to be like the final arc or something, because this is a 13-episode anime, right? Like, just imagining what they could do with a good 3-parter, it just feels like we're watching miniature movies take place in this engaging universe that there's only certain sci-fi universes that have truly hooked me in, and it feels like Vivi could be one of, if not some of the best sci-fi anime has personally seen. And for a story about rogue AIs, which is one of the most overused concepts in the West, Japan found a way to really make it feel fresh and exciting without relying on the cliches and tropes a lot of anime fans have grown bored of over the years. The shows, honestly, out of all the shows I think about each week, I think Vivi is the one I'm most fascinated by, even just for the way the production is coming together. It's just absolutely outstanding. Amazing episode once again, and I'm once again excited for more. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. What did you think? And did you personally see that twist coming? Let me know. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, share your support, and hit that subscribe button if you happen new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.